So today was a progressive as hell day. It's Thursday, it's the end of the day now. Come on, Apple Watch, get out of texting. It's 7:03 and we're stripped. Stripped actually really well, and that's kind of a cool view. But everything in the trunk came apart today. The battery box was here this morning. There was still some wiring over here. Everything was in place over here. All of that is now gone. Even the latch, that was the last thing that we took off, my dad took off. I did get this corner of the suspension done today, the axles, all of that came out in like an hour. I was shocked at how well this side came apart. That was by far the best corner of the car. Maybe it's because it was last and I went into it with a good mindset, and here is everything that came out of there today. And the brake cable, and man, everything came apart. The axle came out of the thing, the bearing, pretty well. The exhaust is still in the car, the drive shaft is still in the car, obviously the engine and the transmission, the steering column, steering gearbox. The only things left in the interior now, like access to the fuel tank, that's still in place. We still have the shifter, selector rod, all that. Steering column, as I said, the clutch line, as I'll call it, and then this antenna. I don't really know how it comes off the glass. I haven't really tried to pry it yet, but that'll probably do it. So everything else is gone. Wiring harness is out. That took a ton of time. Taking the carpeting out took a ton of time. It was glued on the tunnel there, and some of it stayed on the tunnel, so that's unfortunate. Didn't really work under the hood too much today. Interesting fact here, Nate. The rear brake pads say hella on them, right? Like, it says something else. It looks like it used to say rigid, maybe. I can't tell. And then the fronts are this Jared, I don't know, never heard of it. So that's what we got. And all of them have a shit ton of life left. They're pretty new. Backs are a little better than the fronts. So that's cool. We're running out of space on the front half of this. I'm gonna have to further segregate hardware. And really we're ready to pull the engine and the rest of the stuff underneath. Like, if I work at this, we'll have this down to a carcass like Sterling back there within a week. Problem is, we do not have car number 3 lined up yet, and that takes a lot of time. The dead zone that we will inevitably come across will be used to focus on selling all this stuff that's stacked up over here on the shelves. And Nate, you said it was fine. I'm going to pull the bag. I'm going to look at the block and the pistons, which, yep, are all hanging down all the way down there. So they're blackened, of course, because this engine has 160 something thousand miles on it. I don't know what to look at in here in a block. Jeff brings up the good point that if you're using the same pistons and rings, anything you find that doesn't catch a fingernail is probably fine. There is some marking or discoloration up there on the top of that block. Probably fine. Or on the top of that bore. Probably not a big deal. If we look at bank 1, this is all oily. I just washed my hands. I gotta do it again now. Actually, you're better in the diffuse light for the camera. Yeah. Oh, some crusties on that one. Look at that. This is what the pistons, actually these might be a little better than the pistons in the 122,000 mile engine that I rebuilt for my car look like. I mean, they were just as black. I guess they had about the same amount of crusties. They were kind of like that, just textured, and they cleaned up and looked absolutely perfect when that engine was finally assembled. And I have not put a borescope in there since, but it's only been 10,000 miles or so. So there you go, covered back up. I imagine you'll be back, yeah, we talked about it, you'll be back on Saturday, get that crank down to that machine shop that's walking distance from here. I don't know if you want to walk the crank down, because if you dropped it, boy, would that suck. I see you put throttle bodies up there in the attic and something else. I know you told me about it, but I wasn't really paying attention. I guess the crank is in there. I'm not gonna open it up, but all right, that was today. My back hurts and I'm hungry, so I'm gonna go home and eat. And I have a carbon black M5 rear bumper with PDC if anybody wants it.